Roots of Exploitation: The Untold History of Tea Workers in Bangladesh. The history of tea gardens and tea workers in Bangladesh is rooted in exploitation, beginning with the establishment of tea plantations in Sylhet during the late 19th century. As detailed by Riyad Mahmud and Alida Binte Saki in Tea Gardens and Tea Workers of Bangladesh. The commercial success of tea cultivation in Assam and Sylhet between 1860 and 1870 attracted significant foreign investment, primarily from European companies. By 1910, 154 tea estates had been established in Sylhet, all owned by Europeans. This rapid growth led to a demand for cheap labor, which was met by bringing workers from various parts of India, a practice that set the stage for decades of hardship. The laborers who worked on these tea plantations were not locals, but were brought in from regions of India experiencing famine, such as Bengal, Chhota Nagpur, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttar Pradesh. These workers were derogatorily referred to as coolies, a term that reflected their low social standing, according to a report from the British Institute of Development Studies. Most of these workers were impoverished and belonged to lower-caste Hindu communities. They were lured to the tea plantations with false promises of good jobs and better living conditions. In reality, they were deceived, often recruited through intimidation, abduction, and misrepresentation. The recruitment process was managed by brokers known as archadists, who would gather workers from across India and transport them to the tea estates. These workers, including married women and young people, were treated like commodities. The migration of these laborers was akin to a form of modern slavery, as the workers were sold by their own people for money. Once on the plantations, they were subjected to grueling work, poor living conditions, and harsh treatment from the plantation owners. These workers were essentially bound to the estates. As there were laws passed by the British government in 1865 and 1882 that allowed plantation owners to detain workers without a warrant if they attempted to escape. Life on the plantations was fraught with danger. Workers faced harsh weather, dangerous wildlife, and disease, leading to many deaths. The laborers cleared forests to create the plantations, a perilous task that claimed many lives due to wild animal attacks and diseases. Despite these hardships, attempts to flee were met with brutal retaliation. During the non-cooperation movement against British rule, workers organized to leave the plantations. On May 20, 1921, around 12,000 tea workers gathered at Chandpur, intending to return to their homeland via steamer and rail. However, local magistrates and the European Tea Association stopped them. In the chaos, many workers were trampled to death while attempting to board a steamer. The government then cracked down on the workers, with Gurkha soldiers killing approximately 300 of them in what was framed as a response to a cholera outbreak. This tragic event crushed the workers' hopes of returning home, and they remained trapped on the plantations. Over the generations, the children of these workers continued to labor on the estates, perpetuating a cycle of exploitation. Even after 150 years, tea workers in Bangladesh remain disconnected from the broader society. Due to a lack of education and employment opportunities outside the plantations, they are bound to their work in an invisible chain of modern slavery. The story of tea workers in Bangladesh is one of systemic oppression, with generations of laborers suffering under the control of plantation owners. The continued exploitation of these workers, coupled with their isolation from the rest of society, highlights the enduring impact of colonialism and the struggles faced by marginalized communities. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss such informative videos. Thank you.